When it comes to the horror genre, things rarely end well for most of the ensemble. Having said that, there tends to be at least one character that comes out on top. Whether it's a slasher, a paranormal thriller, or a zom-com, there should be a hero or final girl live and kicking at the end, emphasizing that good triumphs over evil. They might be suffering from a few bruises, broken bones, or a missing limb or two, but they should still be alive when it's all said and done. That said, even if a protagonist didn't croak by the time the story wraps up, evidence sometimes suggests that they didn't live much longer after that. A lead character may emerge victorious, but they could have accumulated too many injuries for them to realistically survive more than a few hours. And if they've lost a few pints of blood or are in the middle of nowhere, it's unrealistic for them to make it through the night. By looking at the following 10 entries a little closer, you'll see that these horror movie survivors likely weren't as lucky as they seemed. I'm Sean Ferrick for What Culture Horror, and here are 10 horror movie survivors who probably died soon after. Number 10, Dave Keller, Crawl. Alexandra Aja's underrated thriller kicks off with Hayley Keller, a young woman driving into a hurricane zone to check on her injured father. When the floodwater significantly rises, Hayley is at risk of drowning, and just when it looks like things couldn't get any worse, she and her dad discover they're being hunted by alligators. Despite being deeply resourceful and adaptable, Hayley is repeatedly attacked and bitten by the relentless reptiles. Though, while her injuries are serious, she's sure to make full recovery. The same cannot be said about her dad, Dave. Although it's a nightmare for Dave and his daughter to navigate through the alligator-infested waters, he mainly suffers from a few bumps and bruises. That is, until Crawl's climax, where Dave gets his forearm ripped off by one of the toothy fiends. Now, Crawl seems to have a happy ending, since a helicopter flies overhead in the last few minutes, implying Dave will get the care he needs to pull through. But this isn't a stab wound or a gunshot we're talking about here. Dave had his whole arm chomped off, so unless that helicopter had a spare limb aboard, he's probably going to bleed out before reaching a medical center. Number 9, Kazan Cube. In the sci-fi mindbender Cube, 6 strangers awaken inside a labyrinth of cube-shaped rooms, many of which are booby-trapped. Though the group is in disarray at first, one of them, Quentin, tries to lead him to safety. The characters eventually turn on Quentin due to his antagonistic actions, especially when he says they should abandon one member of the group, an autistic man, Kazan. However, it soon discovers that Kazan is a savant, meaning he can make calculations to figure out how the maze is structured. By this point, though, Quentin has become unhinged, leading him to kill everyone but Kazan as they locate the exit. With nobody else alive, Kazan wanders out of the cube just before the screen abruptly cuts to credits. Although his true fate seems unclear, the follow-ups Cube 2 Hypercube and Cube 0 indicate that things didn't turn out well for Kazan. Hypercube shows the prison's wardens have contingencies if anyone escapes, while Cube 0 emphasizes that every prisoner who escapes is recaptured or quietly eliminated. Even if Kazan located the true exit, survival is slim, since he'd be heavily disorientated, dehydrated, and malnourished. Without immediate help, his physical condition would lead to death within hours or days. Number 8, The Crazies, 2010. Like George A. Romero's classic film, The Crazies remake opens with a toxin contaminating the water supply of a small Iowa town, causing the residents to become violently psychotic. After the military quarantine the region, Sheriff David Dutton and his wife, Judy, do what they can to escape. While they lose many friends and their daughter along the way, the Duttons do manage to flee the town mere moments before the army blows it up. Now, though the couple look like they've avoided a terrible fate, their survival is almost certainly short-lived, as while they wander around, it's revealed that a satellite is spying on them. In the final moments, the words "Initiate Containment Protocol" appear on screen, proving the military is, in fact, readying to stop anyone in the area from spreading the toxin. Speaking of which, the Duttons may already be infected, with it theorized earlier that the incubation period of the virus is 2 days at the most, meaning David and Judy should be in the clear. However, it took over 2 days for David's best friend to turn, so this theory isn't accurate. After all, we saw Judy drink water before the final chase, so it's possible the virus is already in her body. If that's the case, there's little hope for either of them. Number 7, Shaun Deadstream. Released on Shudder in 2022, Deadstream follows disgraced influencer Shaun as he tries to win back his audience by live streaming himself spending the night in a spooky mansion. But when Shaun awakens an evil spirit, Mildred, he realizes he's no longer fighting for his reputation, but his life. Although Shaun is immature and irresponsible, you feel sorry for him since he suffers from a torrent of abuse. While trying to evade Mildred and her ghouls, he gets possessed, falls out of a second-story window, gets stabbed in the leg, has his head repeatedly bashed into the floor, has a bite taken out of his testicles, and loses a finger. Also, you had to admire Shaun since he's remarkably adaptable. He may be a screw-up, but he still manages to outsmart the ghosts again and again. More importantly, Shaun defeats Mildred in the end, banishing the devious wench to hell. Sadly, Shaun doesn't have much time to enjoy his victory since Mildred's demons close in on him in the last few seconds. Although the film doesn't show Shaun die, he can barely stand at this point and is bleeding profusely, so it seems impossible for him to contend against the malevolent horde. Number 6, Amy The Ruins. Based on Scott Smith's novel of the same name, The Ruins opens with Amy and her friends venturing into a Mayan temple. After being attacked by hostile villagers, Amy's group climbs the structure, hoping they'll be safe. But when they discover the vines surrounding the temple are sentient and deadly, they realize their chances of survival are slim to none. At first, evading the voracious vines should be easy, since they move slowly. But if one of these razor-sharp plants makes skin contact with Amy's group, they'll be infected with a spore. Within hours, this spore burrows into the person's brain, compelling them to slaughter everyone around them or themselves. Although Amy serves as the final girl, it's unlikely she had a happy ending. And not just because she perished in the alternate ending, as The Ruins establishes this spore spreads to anyone it touches within a matter of hours. The vines grab Amy on several occasions, so it doesn't seem feasible for her to avoid being contaminated. And even if she were okay, the villagers would hunt her to the ends of the earth to avoid the spore from spreading. Number 5. Everybody. The Final Girls. The Final Girls begins with Max getting into a car accident with her mother, Amanda, a scream queen best known for the slasher Camp Bloodbath. Amanda dies in the crash, leaving Max utterly heartbroken. On the anniversary of Amanda's death, Max watches Camp Bloodbath at the theatre to commemorate her mother's memory. But when she and her friends are inexplicably sucked into the screen, they find themselves being hunted by Camp Bloodbath's antagonist, a serial killer called Billy. Surviving inside Camp Bloodbath isn't easy, since slasher rules state that only one person can make it out alive. When Amanda's character Nancy realizes this, she allows herself to die as a sacrifice that transforms Max into the final girl, giving Max the power to defeat Billy. From there, Camp Bloodbath ends after Billy is killed, allowing Max's group to return to the real world. Or so it seems. When Billy bursts into Max's hospital room during the final moments, she realizes that she and her buddies are now stuck in the sequel. It's a joke ending, but it doesn't change the fact that things don't bode well for Max's troop. Considering Max barely survived the first massacre, the chances of her making it out alive again are certainly far-fetched. And if Camp Bloodbath is one of those slasher franchises with a dozen follow-ups, the chances of getting through every installment are pretty much non-existent. Number 4. Mia, Evil Dead 2013. In Fede Alvarez's 2013 Evil Dead reboot, 5 friends gather at a remote cabin to help one of them, Mia, overcome her heroin addiction. However, those plans go out the window when one of the group accidentally awakens a demonic force. Although Mia makes it out of the film alive, she has her leg sliced open with a machete, crashes into a pond in her car, and is mercilessly attacked by an evil tree. It must also be emphasized that Mia is fighting demons while going cold turkey, and given how withdrawal can be fatal if precautions aren't taken, it's a miracle she's able to stand. But that's not all, as after being possessed by a demon, Mia is scalded by boiling water, has her tongue sliced in two, is buried alive, and even after the demon leaves her body, things go from bad to worse since Mia gets her arm crushed by a jeep, forcing her to rip it off. The hero from the original Evil Dead series, Ash Williams, survived a similar injury, but Mia's amputation was worse since she dismembered a demon immediately after, causing hundreds of gallons of demonic blood to spray into her gaping wound. Even if she didn't bleed to death, she should be infected by 100 different lethal diseases. Number 3. Shaun of the Dead. Even though the zombie apocalypse in Shaun of the Dead resulted in countless deaths, the titular hero was left mostly unscathed, apart from a dart in the skull. Sure, some of his companions were eaten alive, and his roommate Ed got turned into a ghoul, but everything worked out since the story concludes with Shaun rekindling his relationship with his ex, Liz. On top of that, the final scene reveals Shaun chained up the zombified Ed in the garden shed so that they can still play video games together. This seems like the best way to end the film, since it perfectly conveys Shaun's uncompromisable loyalty. With that said, Shaun's good intentions will probably be his undoing. Simply put, Ed's a zombie. Despite having some level of sentience, Ed tries to bite Shaun the instant he enters the shed, proving he has the same craving for flesh as other revenants. Shaun is a good guy, but he's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. As such, it's not hard to believe he'll get too close for comfort to Ed one day, allowing his best mate to take a bite out of him. When that happens, it could very well lead to another undead outbreak. Number 2. Jen, Revenge. Prior to The Substance, Coralie Fargier helmed a revenge thriller fittingly called Revenge. After our heroine, Jen, is violently assaulted by 3 men, she's tossed off a cliff and impaled on a tree. Refusing to give up, Jen licks her wounds and prepares to kill the trio. Though her tormentors put up one hell of a fight, Jen kills them all, resulting in a deeply satisfying ending. Or maybe not. The level of punishment Jen endures is off the scale, to the point where almost no human being could withstand it, and that's before she starts hunting down her attackers. Wandering through the sweltering desert with limited water and no shade will take its toll on Jen's battered body, plus the film's climax sees her beaten, strangled, and sustaining deep lacerations and multiple gunshots. Jen's lost so much blood by that finale, she shouldn't be able to walk. Sure, adrenaline can mask pain and delay collapse, but only for so long. Even though she cauterized her wounds, Jen should have developed a fatal infection, especially since she placed dirty metal on her gaping injuries. In Revenge's very last scene, a helicopter can be heard in the distance, implying Jen will be rescued. But even if she's alive by the time she reaches a hospital, the chances of lasting the night are virtually zero. Number 1. John Trent, In the Mouth of Madness. Inspired by the work of H.P. Lovecraft, John Carpenter's kaleidoscopic In the Mouth of Madness opens with an investigator, John Trent, being hired to find missing horror author Sutter Kane. Initially, John believes Kane's disappearance is a publicity stunt to boost sales for his recent book. As the investigation unfolds, though, John realizes he himself is a creation of Kane's latest story. As Kane's monstrous creations consume the world, John heads to the cinema to watch the film adaptation of In the Mouth of Madness, laughing maniacally during the screening, recognizing his entire existence as a piece of fiction. Although many entries on this list probably die due to grievous wounds, John's fate is more metaphysical. After all, John only exists because Sutter Kane wills it. Once Kane has no further use for his characters, they disappear. With that in mind, John Trent could be blipped out of existence the instant the screen cuts to black, and even if the story continues after the credits roll, there's nowhere for John to go, as the world is consumed by Kane's eldritch beasts. There are no safe havens for him, or anyone for that matter. What are we doing standing around here? Run!